Part 47 begins with the subtle aftershock of an exchange that, on the surface, appeared confined to a hearing room, but in reality resonated far beyond its walls. What transpired between Jasmine Crockett and Pam Bondi was not just a pointed cross-examination, it was a crystallization of systemic tension, a collision between moral urgency and institutional defense. The specter of Jeffrey Epstein hovered over every word, transforming the dialogue from procedural inquiry into an emblem of accountability demanded by the public. Crockett's insistence that survivors be recognized functioned as both a challenge and a call to conscience, refusing the comfort of abstract legal language. Bondi's steady reliance on historical and statutory reasoning functioned as a stabilizing anchor, underscoring that oversight must honor the frameworks within which decisions were made. Between confrontation and containment, the moment became a blueprint for understanding how institutions absorb scrutiny while retaining structure. The exchange reveals the anatomy of responsibility in modern governance. Crockett consistently emphasized moral accountability, that recognition of harm is inseparable from legitimacy. Her insistence that survivors' experiences be named and validated signaled a fundamental principle. Justice is not only enacted through rules, but also through acknowledgment. Bondi, conversely, consistently emphasized procedural accountability, that fairness and credibility require contextualization and adherence to legal standards. Her approach communicated that institutions cannot bend to immediate public sentiment without compromising structural integrity. The friction between these philosophies was not merely rhetorical, it illuminated the very mechanisms by which democratic systems balance evolving ethical expectations with operational continuity. The psychological dimension is equally revealing. Crockett's intensity mirrored public frustration at perceived institutional inertia. Her questions functioned as a conduit for collective impatience and demand for moral clarity. Bondi's composure mirrored societal expectations for order and consistency. This dual reflection helped explain why the exchange resonated widely. It captured two universal desires in tension: the desire for justice that feels immediate and the desire for governance that remains predictable. Observers were drawn into the dynamic, compelled to interpret not only the content but also the tone, the posture, and the intent behind each response. The symbolic weight of Epstein's legacy heightened every nuance. The case embodies systemic vulnerability, how influence and privilege can obscure oversight and delay recognition of harm. Crockett's insistence acted as a corrective measure, demanding visibility of acknowledgment where institutions may have faltered. Bondi's legal grounding acted as a stabilizing counterbalance, emphasizing that remedy must respect established constraints. This duality made the exchange both highly charged and instructive. It demonstrated how oversight must operate at the intersection of moral imperative and procedural integrity. Institutional signaling also played a crucial role. Every word, pause, and emphasis sent messages not only to the immediate audience but to future officials, lawmakers, and observers. Crockett signaled that acknowledgment is mandatory, that silence cannot substitute for recognition. Bondi signaled that context matters, that fairness cannot be retrofitted solely to satisfy present-day expectations. These signals accumulate over time, subtly shaping how institutions prepare for scrutiny, communicate decisions, and reconcile past actions with present judgment. This is how democratic norms evolve, incrementally, through high-stakes moments that set invisible precedents. The enduring lesson is that resilience depends on managed friction. The confrontation was tense, yet it occurred within procedural bounds. Crockett's moral pressure and Bondi's structural defense coexisted without destabilizing the institution. That containment is instructive. Friction, when harnessed within a framework, clarifies responsibilities, sharpens standards, and strengthens the perception of legitimacy. The public sees the tension and understands that institutions are not merely reactive but capable of self-assessment under pressure. Finally, the lasting insight of this episode is that accountability is never unidimensional. It is an ongoing negotiation between empathy and order, acknowledgement and legality, intensity and composure. The Crockett-Bondi exchange exemplifies how democracy functions at its most instructive, through active negotiation rather than passive resolution. Citizens watching this process are challenged to engage, to hold institutions accountable, and to insist on both moral clarity and structural integrity. The hearing may have concluded, but the recalibration it initiated continues, shaping policy, culture, and expectations in ways that extend far beyond any single exchange.